In her first senior tournament for Team USA in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Caitlin Clark performed less like a newcomer and more like a central component of the national team rotation. She led the event with 6.4 assists per game while averaging 11.6 points and 14.6 efficiency. Team USA finished the qualifier with a 5-0 record, reflecting the immediate impact of her presence on the floor. This tournament served as a baseline for how Clark's game translates to the senior international stage. Operating under different pressures and with new teammates, she maintained a high level of composure and floor control. Her ability to manage tempo and vision at this level suggests a significant shift in the international landscape, as her skill set forced opponents to adjust their defensive schemes well before she reached the half-court line. Against Senegal, Clark recorded 12 assists and 17 points in just 19 minutes of play. This production demonstrated an ability to influence the game's outcome within limited minutes, using passing to alter the structure of a possession. Transitioning to the senior team involves adjusting to a faster pace and tighter spacing, yet Clark acclimated quickly, asserting herself as a primary playmaker. In the 110-46 victory over Senegal, her statistics were the result of consistent, high-level reads that effectively raised the team's offensive floor for the remainder of the competition. Against Puerto Rico, her influence was more subtle. She finished with 8 points and 2 assists in 19 minutes, focusing on organization and maintaining the offensive flow. Her performance illustrated that a lead guard's impact is often found in structural stability rather than high-volume scoring. The primary role of a floor general is to create high-percentage opportunities and establish order, and by leading the field in assists, Clark ensured the offense remained efficient. This balance was also evident against Italy, where she recorded 12 points in 22 minutes. Her efficiency forced defenders to account for both her perimeter shooting and her playmaking, making it difficult for opponents to sell out on any single aspect of her game. Within the Team USA system, Clark was tasked with directing traffic and capitalizing on defensive errors. Her versatility allowed her to dictate the rhythm of one game and focus on efficient scoring in the next. By the game against New Zealand, which the US won 101-46, Clark's ability to organize fast-break basketball became a clear advantage against international teams attempting to slow the game down. The tournament concluded with an 84-70 victory over Spain. This 5-0 run was defined by sustained control and an identity that remained stable regardless of the opponent's style. Clark was central to that stability, establishing herself as a rhythm setter from the opening game. Beyond the statistics, Clark demonstrated a tactical maturity by integrating into the existing roster and improving the team's offensive tempo without disrupting the group dynamic. Her performance in San Juan confirmed that her style of play is effective against disciplined, physical international defenses. Her tournament average of 6.4 assists remained consistent across the 5 games, indicating a reliable impact rather than a temporary streak. She adjusted her role based on the needs of each matchup, alternating between primary scorer and facilitator. As Team USA finished undefeated, Clark provided the direction and decision-making necessary for a dominant run. In her senior debut, she led the tournament in assists, earned MVP honors, and facilitated an undefeated record, transitioning her potential into a documented reality on the world stage. These performances serve as a clear indication of her role in the future of the national program. The introduction of a high-usage playmaker into a veteran-heavy system often results in a period of friction, yet the integration process in San Juan suggested a shift in how the national team manages its offensive possessions. Historically, the United States has relied on a hierarchy of veteran wings and dominant interior players to grind down international opponents. The arrival of a guard capable of generating high-value opportunities from 30 feet out changes the geometry of the court. In the games following the initial blowout against Senegal, the tactical adjustments made by opposing coaches revealed just how much Clark's presence distorted traditional defensive rotations. Italy and Puerto Rico attempted to implement various forms of drop coverage and late switches to mitigate her passing lanes, but the speed at which the ball left her hands often rendered these adjustments obsolete. This efficiency is rooted in the technical mechanics of her transition game. In international play, the floor is slightly smaller, and the lack of a defensive 3-second rule allows interior defenders to camp in the paint. For most guards, this creates a congested driving lane that forces a reset into a stagnant half-court set. Clark's solution in the qualifiers was to bypass the set defense entirely by using the outlet pass as a primary weapon. By finding teammates like Aaliyah Boston or Nafisa Collier before the opposing defense could establish its shell, she effectively nullified the physical advantages of the European and South American zones. This style of play requires a high level of conditioning and a willingness to accept a high-risk, high-reward secondary break, which the American coaching staff leaned into as the tournament progressed. The statistical weight of leading a senior tournament in assists as a debutante cannot be overstated. Since the professionalization of the women's national team in the mid-1990s, the point guard position has been defined by the steady, risk-averse management of Hall of Fame talents. While the previous era focused on ball security and entry passes to the post, the modern international game demands a guard who can act as a floor spacer and a primary scoring threat simultaneously. During the middle stretch of the qualifiers, Clark's assist-to-turnover ratio remained remarkably stable despite the increasing physicality of the defense. Opponents began utilizing full-fronting tactics against American bigs to deny the entry pass, assuming that forcing the guards to shoot would be a winning strategy. Instead, Clark utilized these moments to exploit the weak side of the defense, often finding cutters with skip passes that traveled across the width of the court in less than a second. This ability to manipulate the weak side defense is a hallmark of elite vision. In the game against Italy, specifically, there were multiple instances where Clark drew two defenders to the level of the screen, only to wrap a pass around the hedging defender to a rolling teammate. This forced Italy into a scramble rotation, a defensive state where players are forced to leave their primary assignments to cover open shooters. When a team is forced to scramble against the United States, the result is almost always an open layup or a high-percentage three-pointer. By the second half of that matchup, the Italian defense appeared visibly fatigued, a direct result of the constant lateral movement required to stay attached to Clark's passing targets. Beyond the technical aspects of her play, there is the matter of the gravity she commands. In basketball analytics, gravity refers to the amount of defensive attention a player attracts, even when they do not have the ball. In San Juan, defenders were hesitant to leave Clark to help on drives by other American stars. This created massive lanes for teammates to operate. When a defense refuses to help off a shooter, the entire defensive structure loses its elasticity. The spacing provided by Clark's shooting reputation allowed the American frontcourt to operate in one-on-one situations, which is a statistical death sentence for most international opponents. The versatility shown in her shot selection, mixing deep transition threes with controlled mid-range pull-ups, ensured that no single defensive coverage could remain effective for more than a few possessions. The championship-level environment of a FIBA qualifier also tested her defensive engagement. While much of the public discourse surrounds her offensive output, the senior national team requires a high level of defensive communication and positioning. Throughout the 5-game stretch, Clark showed progress in her ability to navigate screens and disrupt passing lanes. Her length and anticipation allowed her to contribute to the United States' defensive pressure, which often fueled the very transition opportunities she exploited on the other end. The synergy between her defensive rebounds and her immediate look-ahead passes became a recurring theme, often resulting in points before the television broadcast could complete a replay of the previous possession. Looking at the broader historical context, the transition from the collegiate game to the senior national level is often a multi-year process. Legends of the game typically spend their first few cycles as role players, learning the nuances of the international whistle and the specific demands of the American system. Clark's ability to bypass this apprenticeship and immediately earn MVP honors suggests a readiness that is rare in the modern era. It also indicates a shift in the way the national team identifies its primary engine. The game is becoming faster and more perimeter-oriented, and Clark represents the logical conclusion of that evolution. Her performance in Puerto Rico wasn't just about individual accolades, it was a proof of concept for a high-tempo offensive philosophy that maximizes the athleticism of the entire U.S. roster. The game against Spain provided the most significant tactical challenge of the tournament. Spain is known for a sophisticated defensive approach that utilizes multiple zone looks and aggressive trapping. They attempted to take the ball out of Clark's hands early in the shot clock, forcing other players to become playmakers. In response, Clark showed a veteran-like patience, moving without the ball and using screens to create separation. This forced Spain to eventually abandon the trap, as the constant movement was creating defensive lapses elsewhere. By the fourth quarter, the Spanish defense had reverted to a standard man-to-man, at which point Clark's ability to win individual matchups became the deciding factor. The 84-70 victory was a testament to the team's ability to solve complex defensive puzzles in real time, with Clark acting as the primary problem solver. The physical toll of these tournaments is often overlooked. Playing 5 games in a condensed time frame requires a level of professional preparation that many young players are still developing. Clark's durability and consistent energy levels throughout the event pointed to a disciplined approach to her off-court recovery and film study. This professional standard is what allows a player to maintain high efficiency even as the tournament enters its final, most grueling stages. Her 14.6 efficiency rating is a reflection of this consistency. It demonstrates that she wasn't just having a hot shooting night, she was consistently making the most impactful play available on every possession. As the team moved through the bracket, the chemistry between Clark and the veteran core of the roster became more evident. There is a specific cadence to playing with elite post players, involving timing, ball placement, and an understanding of where a teammate prefers to receive the ball. Clark's ability to adapt her passing style, throwing lobs to some, chest passes to others, and bounce passes into tight windows, showed a high level of basketball IQ. This adaptability is critical for a point guard on a star-studded roster, where the goal is to keep every offensive weapon engaged and productive. The fact that the US looked increasingly comfortable as the tournament progressed is a direct reflection of this growing cohesion. The atmosphere in San Juan also played a role in the narrative of this performance. Playing in front of a passionate, often hostile crowd provides a different kind of psychological test than the domestic game. Clark's composure in these moments, particularly when Puerto Rico or Spain made small runs to cut into the lead, served to steady the rest of the team. A point guard's primary responsibility during an opponent's run is to settle the offense and ensure a high-quality shot on the next possession. Clark excelled in these reset moments, often using a calculated drive or a simple pass to the high post to break the opponent's momentum. This emotional regulation is a subtle but vital component of elite leadership at the international level. The implications for the future of the women's national team are significant. For decades, the program has been a model of consistency, but the style of play has often been criticized for being overly reliant on size and depth. The integration of a guard with Clark's range and vision allows the program to modernize its approach, bringing it more in line with the high-octane offenses seen in the elite tiers of global basketball. This shift makes the United States even more difficult to prepare for, as coaches can no longer rely on traditional scouting reports that focus solely on interior dominance. The threat of the deep three forces defenses to extend their perimeter coverage, which in turn creates more space for the very interior dominance the US is famous for. It is a compounding advantage that begins with the point guard's ability to command attention at the logo. The final statistics of 11.6 points and 6.4 assists do not fully capture the degree to which Clark dictated the terms of every game. In the FIBA system, an assist is often harder to come by due to stricter officiating and the lack of a continuation rule on many plays. To lead a field of international veterans in this category is an objective indicator of her status as a premier floor general. Furthermore, her ability to limit turnovers while maintaining such a high assist rate suggests that her game is not just about flash, it is built on a foundation of sound decision-making and technical precision. The efficiency she displayed in San Juan is the type of production that translates across any level of competition, from the qualifying rounds to the gold medal stages of the world's biggest events. This performance also serves to bridge the gap between different generations of basketball fans. For those who value the traditional art of the pass and the tactical nuances of the point guard position, Clark's play in the qualifiers was a masterclass in modern playmaking. For newer fans drawn to the game by her scoring and range, the tournament provided a deeper look at the substance of her game. She proved that she could be effective without scoring 30 points, showing a willingness to facilitate and play a role within a larger system. This maturity is what ultimately wins championships at the senior level, where the individual must often sacrifice personal statistics for the collective success of the team. The New Zealand game, while a blowout, offered a unique look at how Clark manages a game when the outcome is no longer in doubt. In these scenarios, it is easy for a young player to hunt for individual highlights or lose focus on the defensive end. Instead, Clark remained disciplined, focusing on running the offense with precision and ensuring that the team's bench players were integrated into the flow of the game. This approach builds trust within a locker room. It shows a commitment to the process and a respect for the game that veterans recognize and value. By the time the final buzzer sounded on the tournament, it was clear that Clark had earned that respect through her actions on the floor. Ultimately, the San Juan qualifiers will be remembered as the moment the international basketball world had to reckon with a new reality. The United States has always had the most talent, but it now has a primary ball handler who can weaponize that talent in ways that were previously unavailable. The combination of Clark's vision and the finishing ability of the American roster creates an offensive ceiling that is higher than perhaps any we have seen in the history of the women's game. The 5-0 record and the MVP trophy are the tangible results of this new era, but the intangible shift in the game's rhythm is what will have the most lasting impact. The technical proficiency she displayed, from the footwork on her step-back jumpers to the timing of her hit-ahead passes, reflects years of focused development. At the senior level, the margins for error are razor-thin. A pass that is 6 inches off target or a second too late can lead to a turnover and a fast break for the opposition. Clark's accuracy in San Juan was clinical. Whether she was threading the needle through a zone or finding a teammate in stride during a fast break, the ball was consistently delivered in the shooting pocket, allowing her teammates to score without having to reset their feet. This level of service is a gift to any scorer and is a major reason why the US offensive looked so fluid throughout the event. As the team prepares for the next cycle of international competition, the lessons learned in Puerto Rico will serve as a blueprint. The coaching staff now has a clear understanding of how to maximize Clark's skill set within the broader team structure. They know which lineups provide the best spacing for her vision and which defensive pairings can best support her on that end of the floor. This data is invaluable as the stakes continue to rise. The qualifiers provided a controlled environment to test these theories, and the results were overwhelmingly positive. The integration of Clark into the senior team was not a disruptive event, it was an additive one, making a great team even more dangerous. The tournament also highlighted the global growth of the women's game. Teams like Spain, Italy, and Puerto Rico showed a high level of tactical sophistication and physical conditioning. The gap between the United States and the rest of the world is often discussed, but these games showed that the international field is more capable than ever of challenging the Americans if they are not playing at their best. Clark's role in maintaining that gap cannot be ignored. By introducing a new, high-tempo variable into the equation, she forces the rest of the world to once again play catch-up. Her performance was a reminder that the U.S. program is not standing still. It is actively evolving to meet the challenges of a more competitive global landscape. The narrative of a warning to the rest of the world is grounded in the reality of the box scores and the film from San Juan. When a player with Clark's unique combination of skills enters a championship system and immediately becomes its most efficient playmaker, it fundamentally alters the competitive balance. The qualifiers were the first chapter of this new narrative. They established the baseline for what is possible when elite vision meets elite athleticism. For the opponents who watched Clark dismantle their defenses in San Juan, the message was clear. The standard for winning has been raised, and the task of defending the United States has become significantly more complicated. In the final assessment, the story of the San Juan qualifiers is one of successful transition. The transition of a player from a collegiate star to an international floor general. The transition of a team from a veteran-reliant system to a modern pace-driven offense. And the transition of the women's game into an era where a single guard can redefine the geometry of the court. Caitlin Clark's performance was the catalyst for all of these shifts. She provided the statistics, the leadership, and the structural stability necessary for an undefeated run. More importantly, she proved that her game is built for the highest possible stage, suggesting that her impact on the international game is only just beginning. The efficiency, the vision, and the control she exhibited are not fleeting traits. They are the markers of a player who has arrived and is ready to lead. In a tournament filled with the world's best talent, Clark stood out not just for what she did, but for how she made the game look while doing it. The results speak for themselves, but the tape from San Juan tells an even deeper story of a player who is perfectly in command of her craft. The technical implications of a guard who can facilitate from the logo are most visible in the way defensive shells are forced to expand. In the traditional international game, a defense is typically anchored in the paint, moving outward only when the ball reaches the perimeter. Clark's presence in San Juan altered this fundamental geometry. By picking up the ball at 80 feet and looking for transition targets immediately, she forced opposing guards into a state of constant retreat. This pressure of the unknown is what defensive coordinators often refer to as bending the floor. Even when she was not recording a direct assist, her movement dictated where the help-side defenders had to stand, often pulling them several steps away from their preferred post-fronting positions. This opened the interior for the United States frontcourt in a way that stagnant half-court sets cannot replicate. When analyzing the performance against Senegal, the efficiency of 12 assists in 19 minutes provides a specific data point regarding the speed of her decision-making. In a standard 40-minute FIBA game, a guard rarely sees enough possessions to reach double-digit assists, let alone doing so in less than 2 quarters of floor time. This suggests that the pace of play under Clark's direction was significantly higher than the tournament average. She was not merely bringing the ball up the court, she was initiating the offense before the defense could count their assignments. This stopwatch dominance meant that Senegal was forced to play at a speed that led to fatigue and subsequent defensive lapses. For a national team that prides itself on depth, having a guard who can accelerate the game to this degree maximizes the physical advantages of the entire roster. The game against Puerto Rico offered a different analytical perspective, focusing on the concept of quiet influence. While a stat line of 8 points and 2 assists might appear standard for a rotation player, the film shows a guard focused on game management and structural integrity. In high-stakes international play, games can often devolve into individual matchups that disrupt the team's rhythm. Clark's refusal to force shots in this game demonstrated a professional understanding of the tournament's broader goals. She prioritized the extra pass and the correct defensive rotation, ensuring the game never drifted into a competitive range. This ability to modulate her output, transitioning from a high-volume playmaker against Senegal to a stabilizing floor general against Puerto Rico, is a trait typically associated with 10-year veterans rather than senior team newcomers. This versatility was further documented in the matchup with Italy. By recording 12 points in 22 minutes, Clark showcased an efficient scoring profile that complemented her playmaking. The international three-point line, which is closer than the professional distance in the United States, becomes a significant weapon for a player with her range. When defenders began to cheat over the top of screens to prevent the three, she utilized the gravity of her shooting to create driving lanes for her teammates. This creates a tactical paradox for opponents. If they play close to her, they lose their rim protection. If they sag off, they concede a high-percentage shot. The Italian defense struggled with this dilemma for the duration of her time on the court, resulting in a defensive structure that felt perpetually compromised. In the context of the 101-46 victory over New Zealand, the focus shifted to structured speed. There is a significant difference between playing fast and playing organized, and Clark's ability to find the middle ground is what fueled the American scoring runs. She acted as the connective tissue between the defensive rebound and the finished layup, often making the pass that led to the assist. This secondary playmaking is often lost in basic box scores, but is captured in her 14.6 efficiency rating. It reflects a player who understands where the ball needs to be 2 passes ahead of the actual score. By making speed feel ordinary, she prevented the game from turning into a chaotic exchange of turnovers, keeping the United States in complete control of the possession count. The final game against Spain, an 84-70 victory, served as the definitive test of this control. Spain utilizes a disciplined physical defensive style designed to disrupt the rhythm of elite guards. They attempted to utilize blitz coverages, doubling Clark at the point of the screen to force the ball out of her hands. Her response was a masterclass in tactical patience. Rather than attempting to dribble through the double team, she moved the ball quickly to the short roll and relocated to the corner, forcing the Spanish defense to rotate through multiple layers of help. This technical discipline ensured that the American offense remained fluid even under maximum pressure. Finishing the tournament 5-0 was not just a result of talent, it was a result of this specific brand of sustained offensive pressure that wore down even the most disciplined European defenses. By the conclusion of the event, the consensus among observers was that Clark had redefined the expectations for a lead guard in the national system. Leading the field with 6.4 assists per game as a senior debutante is a historical outlier that points toward a long-term shift in team identity. The United States has always possessed superior size and athleticism, but the addition of a high IQ rhythm setter allows those physical gifts to be used more efficiently. The MVP honors were an objective acknowledgement of this fact. Her performance proved that the hype surrounding her game was rooted in functional, winning basketball that translates across borders and different levels of physicality. The broader message sent by this tournament performance involves the readiness of the next generation of American talent. Stepping onto a world stage and immediately commanding the floor requires a rare combination of technical skill and psychological composure. Clark did not wait for the game to slow down. She dictated the terms from the first possession against Senegal to the final buzzer against Spain. Her ability to lead the event in assists while maintaining an efficient scoring presence suggests that her game has no significant blind spots that international defenses can exploit. Whether she was asked to carry the offensive load or simply direct traffic, the result was a consistent, dominant outcome for Team USA. Ultimately, the San Juan qualifiers served as a bridge between potential and documented reality. The statistics, 11.6 points, 6.4 assists, and a 14.6 efficiency rating, provide the factual framework for a performance that felt even more significant on film. Clark displayed the passing vision of a seasoned professional and the shooting range of a modern floor spacer, all while maintaining the poise required of a tournament MVP. For the rest of the international basketball community, the 5-game undefeated run was a demonstration of the new standard for the American backcourt. It confirmed that the most dangerous version of Team USA is one where the ball is in the hands of a player who can see the entire court before the defense even crosses the timeline. This was not a trial period. It was an arrival,